is still section 1.2, and now we're going to look at some methods of non-random sampling. Our previous video looked at the four main methods of random sampling. These were generally good methods to make sure that we have a nice representative sample, where we try to make the sample as reflective of the population as we can. Now, in non-random sampling, these sample types are more likely to have some bias. And in statistics, what biased means is that this is going to favor certain outcomes. So it's going to have a bias more towards one side than the other. And some members of the population are more likely to be chosen for the sample. Okay, so that is in contrast to random sampling, where everybody had an equal opportunity to be chosen. Okay, so two main types of non-random sampling. The first is a convenience sample, which really happens all the time because it's easy. A convenience sample is just picking whoever's convenient to you. This uses results that are most easily available. Okay, so maybe if you had to take a survey for a class or something, you might ask your friends and family. Um, that might lead to some bias within the survey responses if your friends and family tend to be fairly like-minded to one another. Another example that's kind of common would be something like a survey in a public place, like surveying customers in a store of some sort, like maybe surveying customers in a health food store or like a supplement store or something about their opinions. Oops, opinions, if I can spell, on something like fast food per se. Okay, that might lead to some bias. There are, kind of a certain clientele that would frequent a health food store, and they might have some similar opinions about fast food. All right, so this is more likely to be biased, but the results are pretty easy to get because you can just stand in the health food store and ask people until you have enough. But we want to make sure that we're getting good data, not always just easy data. Okay, another one is the volunteer sample. And so people are volunteering to be part of the sample group, essentially. So in this type, only those who want to be part of the group, who want to be part of the sample, will participate. Okay, this is also called a self-selected sample because people are choosing themselves to be part of the research or part of the sample group. Okay, and we also see these types of samples a lot. So for an example, you could look at most rating sites. Oops. Online, anything that asks you to submit ratings. All right, so things like Yelp reviews or Google reviews, things like that. Rate My Professors is a big one. the bane of every teacher's existence. Um, yeah, so rating sites like this are really going to be self selecting for people with strong opinions. All right. So let's say, on Rate My Professors, you're more likely to see ratings from people who really, really loved a professor and a certain class. They're like, this class is great, everybody should take it. Or you'll see reviews from people who really hated the professor or hated the class, and they think nobody should take that class. It's a bit more rare to see a review that's just kind of like, oh, this class was fine. I learned something. It wasn't too easy, but it wasn't too tough, like very middle of the road there. Kind of same thing with Yelp reviews or Google reviews for restaurants or stores. These tend to draw out the more extreme folks on the internet with strong opinions. So they got fabulous service, the food was amazing, or the service was terrible, the food sucked, it's way overrated. Um, that type of thing is what you might see. So these are more biased sample types.